Sean Haney here with RealAgriculture.com and Real Ag Radio, Rural Radio 147, Sirius XM. You can hear every weekday at 4:30 Eastern. Joined right now by the one, the only Pro Farmers DC analyst. It is Jim Weisemeyer. Hey, Jim, how's it going?
I'm here in Boston, Massachusetts. I haven't been to Boston for many years and saw again how beautiful this city is. But the key word here is the House leadership vote, Sean, and we have some updates there.
Yeah, Jim, I was kind of struggling a little bit to come up with some things that are happening in Canada. Nothing, there's lots happening, but nothing of the same drama that we're all watching really around the world. What's happening in terms of who the next Speaker of the House is going to be? We're recording this Tuesday afternoon. There has been one vote that Jim Jordon, representative from Ohio, he did lose, Jim. Now, the gap there was a little bit more than people first thought.
Yes. The word going in was he was shy 8 to 10 votes, and at the most 12. He wound up being 20 votes shy. That's not a good signal whatsoever. And for perspective, Kevin McCarthy, if you recall, took 15 rounds to become Speaker. The first of the 15, he lost by 15. So he did even worse on the first round than Kevin McCarthy, Republican from California. So there's more questions again than answers right now, Sean.
Now, although supported by Matt Gaetz and some of the other members of the rebel sort of group that were McCarthy's undoing, what's the push against Jordon? What does he have to overcome in order to become Speaker?
Well, because he was one of the original rebel rousers in his early days. He was the one who helped lead the charge against then House Speaker John Boehner from Ohio, from his own state. He helped to dethrone him. And that's when Boehner just resigned. He didn't call for the vote, motion to vacate. And John Boehner at the time called Jim Jordon a legislative terrorist.
Oh boy.
So that tells you the relation there. Now, people can change, and the last few days, Jim Jordon, Ohio, started to making amends to a number of other lawmakers who were nervous about it. In particular, G.T. Thompson, Republican from Pennsylvania, and Rogers from Alabama, Representative Rogers, and they both wanted his commitment to allow a farm bill to be voted on in a positive way. And he turned on that one and said yes. If you recall, Jim Jordon has voted no on the 3 farm bills that he's been able to vote on. So there was a lot of concern in the ag sector about Jim Jordon.
And obviously, if JT Thompson is good with that assurance, that's a good indication for a pause, because Jordon has a history of voting against farm bills. That's why this is significant.
It was significant, but he would still be a very aggressive chairman. Former President Trump was pushing him, and Fox News even got into it. Sean Hannity was basically lobbying on the air for him. And I don't think that went down well with some of the areas of the Republican Party, especially the moderate wing. You saw most of them vote against Jim Jordon. Now, the word at this time is, if there is another vote later today, again, you mentioned Tuesday, he could actually lose more votes. And if that were to be the case, he could lose up to 10 more votes. And if it's a 30-vote spread, he's done. He's done. So I don't know whether he's better off working the phones, personal visits, and then hold the vote sometime on Wednesday. So I'm not going to be surprised if they delay a vote. But Mr. Jordon is fairly aggressive, and he wants to put people on the spot. And well, he's putting them on the spot already. Now they know the 20 they have to go after. But again, he could lose some, and that's what they're worried about.
Well, old wrestling coach, so he knows aggression, right? He'll put somebody in armbar.
He does know aggression, and he's led the charge against the hearings on Biden, the investigation of Biden. So yeah, he's fairly aggressive. Now, what's the fallback plan? Because
Yeah.
this is another indication that the House Republicans just can't govern. So what is their game plan? Again, some of the word is that Patrick McHenry is the interim speaker right now with very little duties other than to call a vote for the leadership. Well, there's a movement underway, and some Democrats are in support of that, Sean, by the way, to give Patrick McHenry, he's a Republican from North Carolina, some more powers to at least get some of the must-pass legislation through, appropriation bills, aid to Israel, at least discuss possible aid to Ukraine. And I think a farm bill would fit in that category if and when it came about. So I would watch that as a possibility as well.
Those temporary, I guess, privileges for Mr. McHenry, that unprecedented, but seems more likely than a more moderate Republican finding friends on the Democrat side of the aisle. And that just to me would be committing potential political suicide when it gets to re-election time. If someone was to step out and do that.
I agree there. And the history of Patrick McHenry, a lot of people don't know. When he first started in Congress, he was a rabble rouser himself. So he has dramatically changed his colors on that. He's the guy who wears the bow tie. And I've always respect people who wear bow ties without going at a wedding. Okay, it takes guts.
There's rules to live by, Jim. You can always trust somebody with a bow tie, and don't trust somebody with two first names. Those are the rules to live by.
Yeah,
somewhere that's written. So that's out there somewhere.
And so what we're saying is that we still don't know. It's just high uncertainty, because you saw overnight. I gave a speech here in Boston yesterday morning, and I went through Jim Jordon and how he had a lot of negatives and that it looked like he just wouldn't have the votes. And then I come up to my room. This was Monday afternoon. I get all these emails. Oh, he's soaring and he may get it after all. That's how fluid this is, Sean.
Yeah, the PR machine was definitely, you mentioned Hannity. He was really sending emails to dissenters in a rather aggressive tone in terms of what potential repercussions were from their show towards them if they did not change their vote towards Jordon, which is a real crossing of swords.
Well, you have 18 Republican representatives who won their last race in districts that Biden won. So they're very skittish about going too aggressive on their speakership. And that's the problem Jim Jordon has.
And the reason that this is important to not only obviously the US audience, but also, Canadians and beyond, is that this is really, we talk about a government shutdown. This is essentially a government shutdown from a different aspect. Nothing can happen. You mentioned Israel. We got Ukraine. We got a financial government shutdown happening in November after that 6-week extension was given. Nothing can happen until this is solved. And the path to solution is very, very vague at this point. It impacts not only the U.S., but other countries relying on the U.S.
That's true. As one of the leaders of the world, we're not leading right now. And here we have our President Biden going over to Israel, and that's still flaring up with the latest news. And if Hezbollah would come into the fro here, then you've got a regional conflict, if not a wider one. So no, these are significant times, Sean, that we need leadership throughout the U.S. government, but it's lacking right now in the House.
Jim, as we look at the situation in Israel, it seems to be in some ways much more complicated than what we've seen between Russia and Ukraine. Not to say that's a simple situation at all, but this is a lot closer it feels to North America and having impacts here, and a lot more of a situation that could very easily explode to something even bigger than it already is, which I think has a lot of people on real pins and needles.
Yeah, I agree. You have geopolitics galore in this one because Iran has basically funded not only the Hamas, a little over 90% of their financing, and Hezbollah, about the same thing, 90%. And so that's why if Iran would come in aggressively to support Hezbollah bombing from Lebanon, if you
Yeah.
will. And it's really a religious war, and that's where you get history clearly shows those can be brutal, and brutal it is. Israel is starting, I think, to change some of their strategy. They may not be as aggressive in the incursion into Gaza right now, and that's probably one of the reasons our President Biden is going over there. They don't want a ceasefire, but they don't want any too aggressive moves that the opponents can use against Israel. So yes, and this at the same time, this takes the focus away from Russia and Ukraine and China. So that gives them a little respite in order to regroup, if you will. So these have some dynamics.
In terms of financial aid, you and I have chatted a lot with RealAgriculture. We talked a lot on AgriTalk about financial aid for Ukraine and the changing of attitude, I think, in both Canada and the U.S. regarding whether or not that should continue and what volume of funds. What about Israel? Because some people have said that aid packages in that regard could absolutely dwarf anything that has been given to Ukraine. What have you been hearing in terms of numbers?
Israel's going to get whatever they say that they need, both from a financial perspective and a military perspective. We may not hear all the official gives on this one. Some of them are, it's just like the Ukraine, some of the missiles that we recently gave them were not officially announced, and they go further into the Russian occupied territory. So, but I'll tell you, I'm not going to say a total blank check to Israel, but it's close to on that one. Ukraine, far from it, because you have a growing number of members in the Republican Party who, some of whom support Ukraine, but they want a better accounting because of they just don't know where a lot of that money is going, and they haven't got the details from the White House about that. So that that'll be debated. So once the Senate's going to take the initial move on aid, at least to Israel. Chuck Schumer, the majority leader, has already said that. Whether or not that also includes Ukraine funding remains to be seen. And they may even throw in some border security money to attract more Republican votes. So I would watch for that possibility as well.
Yeah. You said you're in Boston. What meetings happening in Boston this week?
The crop insurance, SEPA, crop insurance agents. And I mean, they've got a big crowd here. And what I love about the SEPA meeting is that they're the agents of farmers and crop insurance. So they really know agriculture. You don't have to explain farm programs to them, which I like. And they got a series of lawmakers. Senator John Hoeven came up to speak to us from North Dakota. You had more than a few congressional aides from both the House and Senate Ag Committee. So we got a little update on the Farm Bill. They're continuing to go through some of the options, but kind of their hands are tied too as a result of the lack of House leadership. But the word I got today is that there could be a possibility of pushing the Farm Bill into any omnibus spending bill by the end of the year. So watch that as a possible surprise.
That's going against though what the Gates is the world, because they're against omnibus bills.
Yes, but it may have to come to that because of the inability to govern, and you get Democrats onto that bill. Okay. I'm not predicting that yet, but there is still a way. Dr. Joe Outlaw from Texas.
I've met Dr. Outlaw.
Yeah, he gave a rousing. I'm going to write about it tomorrow on Pro Farmer, and you won't believe some of the things he said. He was very truthful, but he said he still thinks it'll be at the best shot is early next year, other than a possibility of an omnibus thing, because he said there's too much to do to get it done yet this year. And you really have to get it done, he said, no later than February of next year, because then you get into the primaries in the presidential election year. And then he said, if you're not done by that time, then you go to a longer term extension of 1 or 2 years.
I mean, it's hard to believe that the U.S. is that far away from an election. Canada can have 3 elections before you have your next one, Jim. The cycle is never over.
No, it's a lengthy thing. Now we're going to hear from my good friend at the Cook Political Report, David Wasserman, tomorrow morning.
Oh, he's excellent.
I've had meetings with him already, and I think I've got a heads up. And here's what he's going to say. He gives a 40% chance, not 50, 40% chance that Biden may eventually pull out of the race.
Yeah.
Health considerations. He thinks that Trump will be the Republican nominee. The only thing that could do him in is health, which he doesn't see happening, health concerns, or he starts running out of campaign money because of the legal cost. He'll say that to the crowd. As far as the House and Senate races, he caveats very early right now, but he thinks the Republicans will regain control of the Senate by the slimmest of margins, 51 to 49. On the House, he's looking towards New York in their redistricting battles, that he said if the Democrats can win a few more districts as a result of redistricting, then they could regain control of the House. Other than that, he sees about the same ratio. He sees the Republicans keeping control of the House. If it came to a Trump-Biden presidential race, he'll say that that Trump would probably win. That's
the whole thing.
The whole thing.
The whole thing. Wow.
Okay. But he did say, though, if the one Biden could still come in at the end with a lot more money, being able to campaign more than Trump if his legal costs really start dragging him down. That's one avenue that Biden could have, but his poll numbers are really, really bad on the economy, the immigration battle, etc. Now he's looking better relative to the Israeli Hamas situation. I think he's looked pretty strong there, but his health is going down. You can continue to see it.
Well, on the right side of the aisle, all of the potential contenders in the Republican primary have just absolutely faded as Trump has really, really gained steam. They've just really faltered, and DeSantis his campaign is in a mess. He also has a money problem. It's really kind of been a whole bunch of blips and starts and stumbles. And on the Democrat side, with Biden hanging on and not necessarily providing any sort of clarity on what he's doing, people are assuming he's going to rerun. There hasn't been a lot of contenders jump up there. That seems to be kind of an unclear field at this point. So it does seem to be a bit of an open lane for Trump to be the winner in the next race if Biden does forfeit his position.
Yes. Now, if Biden were to pull out February, March area, you can go pretty late because he recalled that President Johnson years ago, when he got out, it was pretty late in the campaign.
Yeah.
I asked him, who could it be on the Democratic ticket then? And he said what I'm hearing from the Biden people. Gretchen Whitmer, the governor of Michigan, is well.
Really?
White House, yes. That's a possibility. Of course, California Governor Newsom would be another one. Yeah. So that's kind of what he said in that regard.
So no more Beto. Beto's done. He didn't say Oprah. He didn't say The Rock.
No. It's for the ag sector. When I gave my speech, I handled on what would be the impacts of if the Republicans want it all, House, Senate, and White House, or if the Democrats want it all. And the point I made to the audience is that the Trump tax cuts start expiring 2025, a lot of them. But if Biden is the president, he's not going to, he's going to want to extend those income tax cuts, at least for people making $400,000 or less.
Yeah.
Now, for the ag sector, if Trump won it all, there's two things I'm asked, usually by investors in agriculture. The one is, would the Trump people get rid of a lot of these biofuel tax incentives?
Right.
You know, they're very nervous about that. What I tell them is, if you do away with the tax incentive, what is that? That's a tax increase then.
Yeah.
You see, so the Republicans are going to shy away, I think, from doing away with most of those tax incentives because they'll be accused of raising taxes. The one thing that has a lot of farmers concerned on Trump right now is his threat that the first week he's in office, he's going to implement a 10% across the board tariffs on all of the importers. No, he won't segment it, all of them. And the fear there would be retaliation. So there's a lot riding on this election.
Well, and Jim, what's old is new again. That will also be that we'll have an NAFTA renegotiation again. Remember, there's a fixed term to the current agreement, and that's going to come up all again. And I guarantee you, Trump 2.0 will not have some of the moderates around him that he felt like he was forced to last time. It will be a different group surrounding him. And that could be a real sticky situation for some farm groups in the U.S. trying to convince the president that, that this agreement is good as it's fine. Let's just keep what we have. That's going to be a new drama playing out. And it feels like we've already played that record once already.
Can you imagine? It would be Trump on steroids. I mean, that is just wow. On that one. Yeah, there's just and the concern as we get into trade policy is going to become increasingly important in this country because both really Republicans and Democrats do not like the Biden trade policy. It's moved against market access, and that's been very good in the past for the ag sector. Well, everything starts and ends with corn in the United States, corn. You base your models off of corn because 90 million acres. The problem with corn right now is that Brazil has come up to, for the first time, possibly, this will be the second year that Brazil is the world's largest corn exporter. So you're going to have more competition. And corn is going to be under pressure. If that's the case, you're going to need more market access for the corn crop. And then, but I think the biggest issue for U.S. corn producers is not the Farm Bill. It's whether or not corn-based ethanol qualifies as an eligible fuel for sustainable aviation fuel.
Yeah.
If it is, then that's a pretty good outlet for the additional corn bushels that we'll be seeing this year and in the years ahead. But if not, that's really going to lead to some problems in the U.S. corn market.
Well, there's no shortage of interesting stuff to chat about, Jim. This is wild and crazy times, a lot of concerning stuff happening really, truly around the world. And boy, until we solve some of these domestic things that are happening, it's going to be hard to work on some of the others. So I appreciate you giving us the update, great analysis, and safe travels back to D.C. from Boston, okay?
Hey, thank you, Sean.